Good morning. I love trying to present basically after public officials when they, of course, leave a conference. It's always kind of, dust and cloud during that. So I'm your transition entertainment. Thank you very much. My name is Levent Özbilgin. I've recently had the privilege of managing Microsoft in Türkiye for the past few years. And I love being in front of basically probably the most prominent users of spreadsheets in the world. So thank you for your attendance. We love you. Microsoft Excel loves you. So thank you for your ardent support. I asked actually AI, which is the buzzword today, obviously. I asked artificial intelligence, so what should be the title of a presentation that I'm going to talk about, basically, the impact of artificial intelligence on the financial sector, on CFA, CPAs, and so on and so forth. And what the AI told me is, okay, here's what I suggest you as a title. So I swear this is the title that actually it recommended me. And secondly, it said, don't pretend you know about finance because you don't. And I really don't. And I will not pretend doing so. Now, the issue is, the only relevance that I can claim to your society is the fact that when I was doing my MBA and I was in Washington, D.C., I had the unfortunate luck of having a few friends basically educating in finance, and they were all going crazy about their CFA level 1s, and I had to basically spend endless nights, including my roommate, basically, because they had to study and they had to, for some reason, keep me up because those exams are so hard. What makes it worse is, unfortunately, I had to endure level 2 as well, which is apparently a much worse case scenario than level 1. So I appreciate basically all the details and intricacies that you guys have been, of course, enduring for the past, decades or so. So thanks again. I'd like to talk about AI. Of course, what else can I talk these days, right? But sometimes we think of AI basically as an invention, right? The best invention since this or since that. We can compare it to electricity, we can compare it to printed press and all that stuff. But what we are discussing these days is basically, is it really an invention or is it something else? And I'm going to show you what that something else is if this clicker works. But basically the idea is, the clicker is not working, that's the idea. So somebody help me out here. So the idea is basically, is this, oh, there you go. So I'm going to go back. So the question is this a discovery rather than an invention? Because the whole idea of basically an invention is, there has been so many inventions in the history of the world, so many inventions since, the invention of like writing or the wheel or steam engines or printed press, electricity, internet, cell phones, and so on and so forth. But what we are now thinking about is that we have actually come across a technology that is a sum of most of these, if not all of these inventions. So we pretty much not only invented artificial intelligence, but we are actually running into it as a discovery. And for those of you guys who don't know, this is actually a picture of Göbekli Tepe, which is a site that was recently discovered in southeast Turkey, and all the historians are pretty much busy about rewriting the entire history of the technological, let's say, societies in the world, and when they were founded. Much like when they founded the 8,000-year-old port in Istanbul, this is actually a 12,000-year-old dwelling, or that's basically the guesstimates. A dwelling that's almost more than 10,000 years old, which is an established, organized dwelling. And it's a discovery. This is a major discovery, and the impact of this discovery is going to resonate further and more once the historians basically have an agreement on, what this is all about. So the idea is, there's been a lot of these. There's been a lot of these inventions and some discoveries, basically, obviously, that represent the history of the world. But I'd like to basically, focus on this curve that you're seeing here. And you are seeing the bending of the curve. There's a huge bending of the curve, especially in the last 150 years. And of course, this is the industrialization and all these advanced technologies that we are talking about, we love using, and so on and so forth today. So what everybody is talking about, okay, is today, when we're talking about all these technologies, we created cars, and now we created artificial intelligence. Cars killed the horses and the horse carts, and they killed all the jobs. Now artificial intelligence will take all of our jobs, and it's going to be doom and gloom and everything. But one thing that everybody is missing right now, and this is kind of a chicken and egg situation, is, yes, there's a curve that's being bent, especially after here, but right from here, in the past 150 years, I'm going to let you in a little more, another curve that has happened. In the last 150 years, the human population doubled every 50 years. Doubled. The last time I checked, guys, the resources in this world are fixed. We don't have any other resource. We don't have more water. We don't have more coal. We don't have more gold. We don't have more soil. In fact, the only thing, additional thing that we are gaining as a part of this world is this around 15,000 tons of stardust that's basically raining on Earth. And that's it. This is what we have, folks. So the question is this technology really necessary? Is this technology necessary because we just love creating something and then swimming in it? Or is it necessary because we need that efficiency, we need that productivity to feed not one, not two, not four, but today 8 billion people off of the same resources today? Okay? So that's what technology is trying to solve for. So as technologists, we love talking about it. And we have a product. We have a product that we think is the best thing ever that the humanity has ever created. And that product is exactly trying to solve for these two topics that we are keeping on talking about and every single day. Minister Şimşek, governors, they all discuss about the same thing. Productivity, they all discussed about value add, okay? We're spending money to create a value, but what more value can we get out of that investment? What is the value add of that investment, right? And how can we be more productive? How can we squeeze more out of the resources that we have? Today, the answer of that question is software. Software is the thing for almost the past 100 years that's been keeping along, pushing value add and productivity to its limits. And AI is the ultimate form of this software that we think is going to reshape this entire world in terms of pushing these two things to their boundaries. And that's why companies like Microsoft, and especially specifically Microsoft, basically is positioning itself in. Our mission is to empower every person and every organization on this planet, because we are on this planet, we are bound by its restrictions, to achieve more. Fast forward 50 years, when Bill Gates founded Microsoft, he had a very similar vision. It's almost like a copy and paste of this vision. The guy said something very simple. I'm going to put a programmable device, what we call a personal computer, not a big computer, a personal computer on every single person's lap, desk, office, or whatever. Mind you, 50 years ago, software did not exist as we know it today. Computers did not exist as we know it today. Computers were not programmable. We had no idea how to tell computer to do something, right? Today, after 50 years, we have a pretty good idea to tell a computer to do something. And now what we are saying is, on this new revolution, we have even a better way to tell the computer how to do a thing. And that's what we call the natural language, right? Because that's where we excel in. We talk, we learn how to talk, we express ourselves, basically we express our problems, issues, discussions, arguments in everyday, day-to-day language. And that's what artificial intelligence mainly is putting on the table today. That we can now, as individuals, as companies, and as the public, the overall public, in our verticals, whether it be manufacturing, whether it be retail, whether it be banking, whether it be accounting, whether it be supply chain, or in our professions, whether it be HR, whether it be marketing, whether it be sales, we can now tell a computer something that computes, a technology, to do something for me in my own natural language. And by the way, we technologists, we love these acronyms. We call what I just said low code, no code, which means basically you either have to know very little programming language or zero programming language know-how at all. So today, with AI, you or your organizations or the governments can go tell a computing unit to do something, and it will do it for you. And that's big. So, how do we adopt this? But more importantly, how do we diffuse this? Again, coming back to Minister Şimşek's comment about diffusion. Diffusion is critical, guys, but diffusion is different than adoption, okay? Adoption, I'll give you a very recent example. Adoption is a technology that basically, let's say, the criteria is a technology to reach 100 million active users. Mobile phones takes 16 years. Internet, it took 7 years to reach 100 million users. Facebook, today Meta, 4.5 years to reach 100 million social media users. ChatGPT, which is the de facto artificial intelligence infra that's being also supported by Microsoft, it took only 3 months to reach 100 million users, active users today. Only 3 months, and that's huge. But is that diffusion or is that adoption? That's adoption, but what makes this adoption possible is the very diffusion that enables this technological infrastructure not only specific to a country or to a specific society, but generally across the globe. And I'll tell you basically how that's done. Do you guys know what this is? It's a data center. It's a bunch of buildings with a bunch of computers inside it, okay? That's a data center, and this is a data center that was supported by the Irish government in Dublin, and this was basically a major accomplishment for Microsoft as well, because it was actually Ireland who came to Microsoft and said, hey, you know what, I would like to invest in this technology. This was about a little bit less than 10 years ago, and they invested heavily in it. And they built all these buildings, they put these hundreds of thousands of computers and devices and all that stuff. Right? And by the way, these things are becoming so massive that we don't measure it. Do you know does anybody of you have any idea how we measure the size of these things? The measurement is today on energy. It's in megawatts. All right? That's how we measure these guys. These behemoths are now being measured in not kilowatts, but today megawatts and gigawatts. But I'll tell you another secret. What makes AI today possible, okay, is this sheer computing power that we were able to break through in the past 5 years, okay? And it's literally if you're a hammer, everything is a nail, that you have to fix that problem. That's what computing power is. Computing power of today have reached in such scales that just with AI and the tools, the chips, the technology that's necessary for AI is now basically foreshadowing all the investments that have been done in the past 5 years. So today, the AI-infused data center that's working in this Dublin site, the previous slide is only up there. That's the portion of it. The rest is what AI needs in terms of chips, in terms of energy, in terms of processing, in terms of capabilities. This is what the data center is called, all right? But for those of you who don't want to know about data centers, who don't want to know about these buildings, this compute fabric that doesn't span across only one country or one region, continent, but it spans across the entire world. I'll give you a better idea on what it's called, and that's called cloud. This is what we call cloud. Cloud is the world's computer. Cloud is what makes today's software technologies, artificial intelligence, possible. These chips that we're talking about today, guys, are processing data in the numbers of trillions per second, okay? And I'll impress you more. These data centers, these computers around the world have to synchronize with each other at the precision of nanoseconds because these guys share data. They process data in parallel. They work together to form this fabric that we call cloud. So this thing that we call cloud shares data, transports data, processes data in the name of performance, in the name of resilience, in the name of redundancy, in the name to yield better productivity and better value add on top of everything that we are doing today. So this entire cloud infrastructure is what is different from 5 years ago, is the reason why now every company, every technology company, the NVIDIAs of the world, energy companies of the world are going crazy to invest more and more. This is what makes it possible. So now, as CFAs and CPAs, the very simple question is, well, great, how much? How much? It's a very simple question. This much. Microsoft is committed to spend $82 billion in its current fiscal year on this infrastructure alone to make diffusion possible. This is what's called diffusion, not adoption. We are here to make diffusion of this technology possible so individuals And companies and verticals and horizontals like yourselves can come on this infrastructure and create that value add, create that productivity over this thing that we call cloud and AI. Today is basically we are only 1 month away from closing our fiscal year at Microsoft, and we are on track to exceed this number. So the money that we are spending on cloud, on data centers, on electricity, on fiber optics, on 4G, 5G, and all the stuff that makes this millions of computers work together, that's how much we spend on it on a yearly basis. And that's what makes diffusion possible. So the only relevant example that I can share with you guys that is nearly comparable to this kind of aggression in terms of diffusion is actually electricity. This is the cycle that the invention of electricity went through. The time it took to diffuse that technology across nations, across societies, and to allow that electricity to create that value add and that productivity, it took a very long time. This time, we're not going to repeat the same mistake. And that's why companies like Microsoft are investing all this money to make this diffusion possible, to enable the consumer, the enterprise, and the public sector to basically create that value add out of it. So what are the opportunities? Incredible. The opportunities are endless. What I'm not going to tell you today is that I know all about these opportunities, because as Microsoft or any other technology company, we don't know about your dynamics. I can basically open the books and read all the details about your daily challenges and your complexities, the markets that you're playing in, the customers that you have to deal with, the ethics and compliance rings that you have to go through every single day and night, the regulations that you have to adopt and change every single day. We cannot claim to know how detailed and how demanding these are. But what we can claim is the impact can basically be summarized under these 4 opportunities. And these opportunities are not unique to your segment either. You have employees. So what AI strives to do is to enrich the experience of these employees, make the workplace a better place, make it easier to work, make it easier to contribute. Take what we call the drudgery of work off of your hands, so you actually have more time. We're not saying you're going to work less. No, God knows. God knows we are not going to work less. I can vouch for that. But at least we can work on much better things that have much more impact on our daily, basically, achievements. So we can enrich employee experiences. We can then, of course, maybe the most important of our stakeholders is customers. We can reinvent the customer engagement. We can actually invent a whole way of interacting with our customers. I mean, this thing that we call artificial intelligence and the language models and all that stuff, it is so crazy that, I mean, sometimes I'm thinking, forget about your industry, forget about, every other industry. I'm thinking about one little use case, which is education. I'm thinking about a teacher in a country like Turkey that can answer every single one of 20 million students' questions from K through 12 into higher education every single second of the day in parallel without getting pissed off like a teacher or without actually hitting you with a ruler. I mean, that's an incredible thing. I can ask the same question from another perspective in my natural language as a 5-year-old, as a 10-year-old, as a 20-year-old, as a 30-year-old, and it will not tire of answering that question. It's an incredible enrichment in experience, in engagement. Of course, business processes, that's what we all live and die for. And that's how we basically use AI to optimize them. So we got business processes. Some of them are useful, some of them are legacy, some of them we don't even have any idea what's going on, right? As in a sector such as financial sector, the number of legacy systems, the number of things that have been, the technologies that have been accumulating over decades and decades and decades buried under this thing, and we have no idea what's going on in the bottom. We can now use AI to basically uncover what's going on there. And we can ask AI to be my business process instead of having to go through thousands of man-years of development cycles to understand what this technology is doing us. And of course, forever and ever, if technology is for technology's sake, we can keep bending the curve on innovation. Because at the end of the day, at least in our market, in the high technology and software market, innovation is basically the key. Those who cannot innovate, they don't survive. And that's why we think it's also critical to bend the curve in innovation and then go across your competition. Your landscape is ever problematic. Your landscape is ever legacy. Your landscape is ever basically risky. The amount of risks, the amount of fraud, cybercrime, or the unknowns in the legacy systems that you're using, but you have no idea who's done it and how we can maintain it. The business models, the regulations, they are keeping on changing and changing. So the value proposition that we are putting on the table today is that you guys go out there and test the stuff. Use the platforms that companies are creating. Now, we don't only call it AI, but now we call it agentic AI. Because now we claim that AI is not only a large language model, but it's actually potentially fully capable of becoming an autonomous agent that can plan, that can orchestrate on behalf of you, that can remember everything, and that can act on your behalf. Today, you can ask an AI, and it will answer you. Very soon, you will assign a task to AI, and AI will execute on your behalf. In fact, those agents exist today, especially in sectors like financial services. But tomorrow, there's going to be such a time, and that's going to be within the next year or so, where human and AI can assign tasks to each other and work collaboratively to work on these very problems that we are trying to solve today. Whether it be financial crime, whether it be basically, dealing with these, tons of ledgers, whether it be basically differentiating your customer experiences, serving your customers in a better way, payments and banking, even digital currencies that we are basically tackling today. So, my ask here is, don't be shy on trying on this new technology, because as opposed to the conventional wisdom of basically waiting for something, artificial intelligence is already here today. Sectors, verticals, or horizontals are already trying it. And what Microsoft are trying to do is to build a platform and diffuse this technology and make it as easy and as democratic as possible for you to use this leverage and hopefully create your own value add. Thank you very much.